South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book on an NFL Sunday. I'm Jeff Parles. She's Alex White. We're thrilled to be with you as always. Alex, it is, we are on the back end of this, week 11 in the National Football League as we enter here. One extra, well, actually, there's only one more Sunday in this month after this. So
yes.
We're getting to the end of November here.
And we've got some really good matchups on the board today. We've got some good division matchups, the Steelers and the Ravens, and we've got the Chiefs and the Bills. So I'm looking forward to breaking these down here with you today.
Yeah, of course, you just mentioned the Chiefs-Bills. We know that rivalry, at least in the postseason, has been one-sided, but the regular season has been flipped. So it'll be interesting to see with that. And, of course, the division rivalry that you saw on the thumbnail coming in. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, first place on the line. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But first, we start with a different division rivalry. These two teams are amongst the oldest in National Football League history. And, you know, I can't believe I did this to Ryan McCormick earlier in the week. I went through how bad it's been for the Chicago Bears in this rivalry. Since Aaron Rodgers made his first start as the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers against the Chicago Bears, the Packers are 28-5 against the Bears in 33 games. That includes an NFC title game mixed in there. It has been a disaster for this team. And we look at today's matchup. This has been a disastrous week. Well, not week. I would say there's been a disastrous month for the Chicago Bears, who were, the vibes were great going into the bye week. A team looked like a potential playoff team. They're 4-2. All right, great shape. Beat up on Jacksonville in London.
Yep.
0-3 since the Hail Mary game against Washington, obviously. Horrible in every way possible. And then the last 2 weeks, no touchdowns, 48-12, just getting destroyed the last 2 weeks by Arizona and New England. Now you see Green Bay, who off their bye. Last time we saw them was against Detroit, a game where, if you look at the box score, it looked like Green Bay hung in pretty well. If you watch the game, it was really a blowout that was window dressing at the end. Packers 5.5 in this one, Alex. There even is a few sixes in the market now, and a total of 40.5 for Green Bay and Chicago.
I really believe the Bears is the right side here, and I know that what you just said about the Packers owning the Bears and the record there, but I made it 3.5, so I think there's value here taking the points with the home team can't forget that while we are having offensive struggles with Chicago, their defense is really good. They're still 13th right now in total yards allowed, really good against the pass. I think they're going to keep this competitive. I did not grab the points yet. I did jump in the first half, so that'll be fun. Well, I'll be here working still, watching the morning games, and I'll get to sweat out the Bears plus 3.5 in the first half. But they do have some changes going on. I think it's going to benefit them. So I like the Bears overall, but I went with the first half for them to keep this close. Plus, I mean, we do know, we've seen this with Green Bay this year too. They've been a slow starter. They've really struggled in the first half and then picked it up in the second half. A lot of those wins came in the second half.
So really for Green Bay, I'm happy you brought that point up. That it was really that game against Arizona where they really smothered the Cardinals from the beginning. Other than that, you're 100% spot on, where Green Bay, if you just look at what they've done this year, Houston, they were down at halftime in a game where they really outplayed the Texans for the majority of that first half. The turnovers in that game, the Jacksonville game, and that was, again, a funky game. Jacksonville did cover the first half in that game. So Jacksonville also covered the game in that game. I remember Love got hurt midstream. Willis came in, saved their bacon. All I'll say is there are a bunch of sixes available. If you want to take the 6, I can't fault you, because it's just such a good number in this sort of game when you have a real, and you mentioned it, you have a really good defense on the Chicago side. Their offense is an abomination right now. Thomas Brown takes over play calling. Again, when you fired Shane Waldron and replace him with the guy who called plays for Bryce Young last year, I don't know how much that really helps you. But I did make one prop bet on the Chicago side, and this one may surprise you. I took plus money on no interception thrown by Caleb Williams in this game. Now, could I lose this on the first drive of the game? Absolutely. I could lose this very early. But if you look at Caleb Williams so far this year, if you look at basically the game log for Williams of when he's been at his worst so far this year, which includes last week against the Patriots, which includes 2 weeks ago against Arizona, which includes that game against Tennessee. Yeah, I'm leaving out the Indy game because it doesn't help my argument, but I just of 3 of his 4 worst performances this year, he has not thrown an interception because he's been so inaccurate that he's been unable to throw interceptions. And the Washington game as well. So here's the key to the operation for this. A completion percentage sub 60% for Caleb Williams. So in the 4 games, he's been sub 60 this year.
Yep.
0 interceptions, 0 touchdowns. How about that? So he hasn't been accurate enough to commit turnovers. He hasn't been accurate enough to throw touchdowns. In the good games for Caleb Williams, of course, look, you had the 4 touchdown game against Jacksonville. You had the clean game against Carolina, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. But look, this is a scenario for me where I am in the camp that this is going to be, we got to make some plays, but we're also going to protect the football here today. Now, this could work against me because the big knock on Williams the last few weeks has been the unwillingness to take shots down the field. This could work the other way. Packers are opportunistic on defense. I know that, so I could very easily lose this bet. But if you like 6 like you do, Alex, no problem with that. Also, what are your thoughts on the total here? Would you go under even this low number of 40.5?
No, I wouldn't. I made it right there at 41. My dad really liked this under, I believe.
So this opened 41.5. The look-aheads had it at 45. So it really dumped because of what Chicago did on offense a week ago. I don't know. I think that 41, I don't mind it under. Don't mind it. Don't love it, but I don't mind it. Green Bay, and as always with Green Bay and Chicago, you could get a Green Bay blowout out of nowhere here.
Yes, you could. Or we could have the outlier, which I'm hoping for today. I'm hoping that he is accurate and still does not throw an interception. But you make a good point. I mean, looking at those numbers, because, completed 79% of his passes there in that Jacksonville game and still had an interception, and 69 the week before against Carolina, 74. So
yeah, it's one really good 3-game stretch has been it so far for Caleb in his rookie year. All right, let's go.
Well, and you mentioned it about that Hail Mary game. How would they respond?
Not well.
It has not looked good.
No, not well at all for a young team, not well coached. Hasn't worked for Chicago. And their schedule is brutal the rest of the way also. All right, Alex, I'm going to defer to you on this upcoming game because the bettors seem to be super confident in this game on the side with the Browns going to New Orleans. I mean, they flipped this favorite here from New Orleans to Cleveland 1.5. I know you love revenge spots because it is technically a Jameis Winston revenge spot, but I crossed this game out immediately at the beginning of the week. Both of these teams are terrible. Yeah, Cleveland's off a bye, but again, we're dealing with two bad teams here. I don't have any conviction on this game like the market seemingly does here.
I don't either, and I still have the Saints. I thought that number was right that they opened it up. I think that they should be the favorite here. We saw them last week, right? And we talked about how many injuries they had and, them just struggling, but they found a way to win against a pretty good Atlanta Falcons team. So I don't know why people are so confident in the Browns here today. Coming off a bye, that does make sense. I jumped in on some props in this one. I do like Nick Chubb. I like him to score a touchdown because the Saints have been really bad against the run. They're 31st in the NFL in yards per carry at 5.1. They've given up 14 rushing touchdowns, and 12 of those are to running backs, which is also 31st in the NFL. So big day for Nick Chubb. I think I was looking for field goal props, just like total in the game, because we've seen the Saints really good in the red zone. So I think that could play out here too, and both on both sides. I was leaning to the over, but with that in mind that they might just both kick a lot of field goals, I didn't get there either.
Yeah, the bettors that have conviction on this game, good for you. I really have nothing. The only thing I'd look at, because if you look at, since Jameis Winston has taken over, who's the one wide receiver on the Cleveland side that's really had better numbers since then? That's Cedric Tillman, the product out of Tennessee. So Tillman has scored 3 touchdowns in 2 games with Jameis Winston as the starting quarterback. Now, granted, the touchdown against the Chargers, the game was basically over. It was soft coverage or whatever. You still got there at an over $3 price. They really actually flipped a day for me 2 weeks ago, and it kind of changed the momentum of the day. But the last 3 games, including that game where Watson got hurt against Cincinnati, Tillman, 6 catches for 75 and a score, 7 for 99 and 2, 8 for 81. Tillman has been the number 1 wide receiver in Cleveland. Also, what's the common denominator of that? Amari Cooper isn't in town anymore also. So I don't mind betting Tillman props. Just don't go too aggressive on the Cedric Tillman numbers. I don't think I'd go higher than, oh boy, let's see what we're sitting at the moment, because my notes are a little bit stale based off of what I had. Yeah, you can go over 57.5. That's a number that's in multiple shops now. So if you want to go over 57.5 on Tillman, especially with Marshawn Lattimore no longer in New Orleans, I don't mind that if you want to take Tillman over 57.5 receiving yards.
Now at this number too, I also like the Saints as a teaser leg. Get that over 7. Yeah. I do think it will be a close game. I cannot see Cleveland blowing New Orleans out. This is
a great teaser week, which means what can possibly befall us here in these teasers, Alex?
Especially because last week was it worked out. If you were taking teasers, you were very fortunate, except for the Giants was the only one that didn't get there. So,
the New York Giants. We don't have to talk about them this week, thankfully enough, Alex. Sean's even a cheering in the back there that we don't have to talk about them. But boy, it is a boy, what a terrible season for them. Probably won't see Daniel Jones anymore on the season. By the way, Tillman anytime touchdowns 2-1. On this game. Don't mind that either, but I don't love that price has just continually fallen because of the success he's had over the last few weeks. All right, let's go to New England. Patriots got a win last week. Their defense had more sacks against Chicago than they had in all their games put together going into last week. 9 against the Bears, 8 in the previous 8 before that. And now they take on the Rams, who, Alex, that was really ugly on Monday night. And I know I said this, and we'll get to Miami a little bit later. I said this on Friday where, look, you credit the Dolphins. They needed to win that game. It wasn't pretty, but they won the game. For the Rams, no touchdowns, continuous stupid mistakes on both sides of the ball, not taking advantage of Tua turning the ball over multiple times as well. And now you go cross-country on a short week.
Yep.
Again, I'm not saying the Rams are going to lose outright, but this is a weird spot for them against New England where, look, since Drake May's come into the lineup, this offense at least has had some life. May was fine last week. It was just the other side was such an abomination that May was going to look solid. But I like what I've seen from the young buck out of North Carolina, the 3rd overall pick. Now, the market has bet this. The market has moved this. This opened 5.5. It's now down to 4. So all is down to the tolerance if you're willing to take a not-so-great number on New England. I definitely don't want to lay the Rams, even at the best of the number this week, Alex.
I'm on the Patriots. I did jump in there at that 5.5. I thought that number was just
good work.
Was just off here. So I don't hate it here either because I do think the Patriots could win outright. And I'll credit you because I watched Football Frenzy yesterday, and you said I think that was McVay and Stafford's worst game.
It was as bad as it gets.
With them together, and it really was. And I really was diving in that box score. It was weird, though. They did outgain the Dolphins, but like you said, could not score touchdowns, held them to 5 field goals. Their offensive line is just well below average. You just brought up the Patriots and how they did against a really bad offensive line in Chicago. I think they're going to have success here, too, and give Stafford a really hard time. So taking the points, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did win outright.
Wouldn't shock me either. Wouldn't shock me either if New England finds a way to win this thing outright against the Rams. Again, just not smooth. I mean, you just don't see it very often with those two. And now, granted, the game before that was that Seahawk game, which might have been the weirdest game of the NFL season so far from anyone's perspective. But Rams right now, if you're looking at the NFC West, they're 4-5, a game and a half behind Arizona, with Arizona, of course, thumping them earlier in the year in week 2. New England, obviously, not in the playoff race. All right, game of the early slate. And it hit 3.5 here at the South Point. Steelers at home, dogs against Baltimore. Alex, I'll just throw this at you because we always talk about this with Tomlin as an underdog, where he's as good as it gets in the league, over 60% in his career, and it's not a small sample size, obviously. I'm floored that the market has played this way because, and you have more official power rankings than I do, Baltimore's offense has to be through the roof at this point. Mm-hmm. But Baltimore's defense has to be near the bottom of the league from what we've seen so far this year. And the Steelers' offense, and look, I was wrong. I thought the move to Wilson was a panic move. I thought it was stupid. I was wrong. Their offense has gone to another level with Russell Wilson in at quarterback. I think this Steeler offense can take advantage of this Baltimore defense. It's so weird to see a 48.5 in the Steeler-Raven game, but that total's right, and I like the dog outright here in this game for Pittsburgh to beat Baltimore outright and get a game and a half lead on them in the division. So
I will say, according to my power ratings, the Steelers is the right side. I made the Ravens just a 1.5 point favorite here, so taking those points, there is definitely some value, I believe. But I went a different way, and you kind of just brought it up. I went with the Steelers team total over. Nice. So it's 22.5. They've done this in 5 of their last 6. They've also done it in all 3 of Russell Wilson's starts. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm a little nervous because when we saw the Ravens really put together a full game, we saw them blow out the Buffalo Bills, and that's a really good football team too. So if they're dialed in and focused, they know that the Steelers have had their number with Lamar Jackson. I think this could get away from them. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the Ravens are going to do, and the Steelers could very well win too, but I do think the Steelers will get over 22.5 points in this tough rivalry. So that's the way I chose to play it. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that is a lot of points there for the dog.
Yeah, look, is Baltimore capable of going and winning this game by 2 touchdowns? Absolutely. Their offense is that good, and they can move the ball against anyone, even this top-notch defense they're going to see today in Pittsburgh. But, boy, Lamar does not play well against Pittsburgh. This is the only opponent that has really been able to slow him down through his NFL career, underwater record-wise as well.
Yeah.
This all points to Pittsburgh. It all points to Pittsburgh for me. I like your team total over as well. It's so weird to see a Baltimore-Pittsburgh game totaled in the high 40s. But as Chris and Chris always has great points, but this point on this game makes just so much sense to me, where perception is so hard, and 20 years plus of it for the Ravens, where ever since they moved from Cleveland to Baltimore, what do we always think about the Ravens? Defense is going to smash you in the face every single time. And they're going to be one of the 5 best defenses in the NFL more times than not.
Yep.
It's not the case anymore. They're a top 5 offense. They're not a top 5. They're bottom 5 defense right now to me. I like your team total. I might even play that actually before we get going. Now that we're shy of 24 on that, with Pittsburgh, I'm on the Steelers, on them outright, on at 3.5. I also actually the most I have on this game is Pittsburgh at 3 even. Okay, was actually the most that I have.
And then these 3.5s just started popping up.
Yeah, there's only Chris and company are only 3.5 in the market right at the moment right now. So
yeah, get the best of it. Get that hook if you are just jumping in. So
yeah, plus money 3 is not terrible too, but
yeah.
If you can find one of those, not terrible, but get the extra half a point. That's worth just the regular juice on that. All right, let's go to Miami. They're betting against the Raiders again, Alex. Maybe not as much as they were earlier in the week, but so this was 7. Open with Miami hosting the Raiders. Raiders off their bye. Dolphins off that big win on Monday night. They got to 8. Now went back down the ladder. Now was at 7 entering this morning. And now the hook's put back on at 7.5 and a total of 43.5. So 2 weeks ago, I duped myself into thinking that the Raiders were getting all those points in Cincinnati was fine when the market went up. Obviously was not. I kind of think the points are okay in this game now that we're north of a touchdown, but how much is the Raider offense going to change now with a new play caller and Scott Turner? North Turner's now helping out the offense also. How much is that really going to change? I just think at this point that team is a DOA team at this point. They're dead on arrival with just the fact that it feels like that I was right about Pierce. And that team just has no identity whatsoever. And Miami, again, even with the struggles, we know what the identity is when Tua is healthy.
Yes.
We know what it is. And we saw it at times last week. That opening drive was as good of a drive as they've had all season. The big drive in the second half where they got the touchdown, yeah, we saw the Miami identity. I just don't think they're as good as they usually are. It'd be a lean to the Raiders, even with all the issues with their team. But, boy, it's hard to justify betting on that team right now.
Well, I do think that those changes are going to help them a lot, right? Especially offensive line, get their run game going. So I actually went with the over in this one. And talking to my dad, he kind of convinced me and said, they're going to try and establish that run game, work on the offensive line, have a better offense to fit Minshew, which will definitely help because that's been the problem all year long. It just has not been a good fit for him. On the flip side, I think the Dolphins will find some success as well. More games Tua has under his belt, the more we start to see this offense come alive. Dolphins are 6-3 to the under because their defense has been relatively good, and we saw it against the Rams, holding teams to field goals. But the Raiders on the other side, 6-3 to the over, which is shocking coming into this year because we were ready to take a lot of unders, thinking that their defense was going to carry them. We haven't really seen that either. So this is an even better number. I went over 44. I love it here at 43.5.
Over for Alex on this game. I would like to know what the Raider offense is going to look like this week because it feels like there's got to be some value in the anytime touchdown market or value with guys who have been underutilized so far. Mm-hmm. Problem is they just have no depth. So it's hard to look past Bowers. Michael Mayer does make his return after missing more than a month with a personal issue. So maybe he's the guy that's undervalued today. You can get 10-1 on an anytime touchdown. That's not a terrible price, honestly. If you want to go darting here today or this morning on that.
No, it's not, especially because you've really seen Minshew go to the 2 tight ends, and we haven't seen Myers for a while. But yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and there are worse high end darts here today in that one, but no, it's good to see Meyer back this week for the Raiders. He is active for the first time since week 3 here today. All right, let's go to Jacksonville and Detroit. Biggest number of this is the biggest number of the season so far in the NFL. Oh, it was at 14, which, by the way, Frank laid the worst of it. Not much of a surprise there. So this opened 12.5, popped to 14, now back to 13.5, 47.5 your total. No Trevor Lawrence again for Jacksonville. No Tank Bigsby, so ETN will get the bulk of the carries. Jaguars last week, I'll credit their defense. Their defense played as well as they basically could have last week. Turned Darnold over 3 times, held Minnesota without a touchdown. But Mac Jones, who I'm going to be honest with him, for this coaching staff that could very easily get fired after this game because Jacksonville's on the bye. Obviously, this has been a mess this year. I've been an advocate that Peterson shouldn't have returned for this year to begin with. But I'm a little surprised that they aren't going with Beathard today. Just as a, hey, at least give ourselves an opportunity to potentially make us look a little better and stave off the inevitable of probably this coaching staff being gone at the end of the year anyway. Detroit has not been as impressive the last few weeks. You had to keep winning games. You had to coming from 16 down in a game where your QB throws 5 picks in 2.5 quarters. Yeah, you have to be an impressive team in order to do that. I don't know if I love laying a whole boatload of points with them, regardless of how bad Jacksonville looked last week, Alex.
Well, you do. 2 weeks ago, they did look pretty impressive.
Well, it was a great win by their defense was opportunistic against Green Bay for sure.
But so then I was kind of in the camp, maybe coming off of that division game. They had a slow start against Houston, and that was just the worst of Jared Goff that we have seen in a while. I do expect to see him improve. That's actually the way I decided to play this. I went with Jared Goff over 1.5 touchdown passes because he's done it in 6 of the last 7 games. He's thrown at least 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to have a much better game there. It is minus 135 when I grabbed it, so you do have to lay a little bit there. But sidewise, it's hard. I mean, that's so many points in the NFL. I would only be taking the points here with the Jags, especially trying to save the coaches' jobs. And I think Mac Jones can have a better start here. We've seen he's got a, pretty low floor, high ceiling. We've seen everything from him. So 1 game under his belt. We'll see how he does today. But nothing sidewise. I told Sean, I walked in here, I said, I've seen more Lions jerseys and more Lions fans out in the book than I have all year, because when you're a 2 touchdown favorite, you can feel pretty proud wearing around your stuff. But I like the Jared Goff. I think he's going to have a really good game.
So Goff, the guy we're targeting here today.
Yep, over 1.5 touchdown passes.
I do like that. This feels like one of those games. This could be one of those games where Goff throws 2, each of the running backs gets 1. Like, it could be one of those games for certain.
There is no Sam Laporta, so that is one of his targets that you have to be aware of. But
yeah, I wonder which random tight end would be the guy that you look at here today. Across the board. By the way, only one book in Vegas is even listing Michael Mayer in that last game. So poor job by some of the books out here on that. But with this, I'll just say, and you mentioned Laporta being out, Amon-Ra St. Brown has had, at least statistically speaking, a mixed bag season here. Wonder if this is the game where he really goes off against, a mediocre defense on the Jacksonville side here in this one. All right, let's go to Minnesota and Tennessee. Tennessee has only covered 1 game all season long, Alex. They covered against Miami back in week 4. That's it. It's the only cover that the Titans have here this season. They're 6-point dogs here today against Minnesota. I'll just say this. I don't think the Vikings should be this big of a favorite on the road against anyone at this point. And I know Tennessee doesn't cover. I know it's Will Levis against a defense that forces turnovers, which is obviously a very scary place to be with knowing Levis. But we're seeing the Darnold cracks at this point, where there's enough tape in this offense with Sam Darnold at quarterback that makes this a lot easier for defenses to force turnovers, to slow him down. Now, could Darnold have a good day today? Sure, of course he could. Kevin O'Connell could scheme it up. Darnold could look like he did earlier in the year, and Minnesota could be like, all right, nothing's wrong here. We're still one of the elites in the NFC, even though we haven't looked the same the last month. But this feels like a close game, Alex. I took 6. I think this will be a tight game. If Levis implodes, then, I very easily could be in trouble here with that. Titans, you see their schedule. They stink at this point. They have been overs more than anything, which is interesting because 40 on a total feels like a reasonable under here today with these defenses.
It really does, and it is surprising to see their overs because their defensive numbers still say that they are pretty good defense holding them in these games, but they have not covered, and it's been a lot of late backdoor covers for the other teams, but I didn't do anything here, so we'll have to just go with your pick. I was leaning more towards the Vikings and having a better game coming off of that pretty ugly 12-7 win over Jacksonville, but nothing official for me in this one.
I just wonder here, because there's been one market inefficiency in the anytime touchdown market, and that was Josh Oliver for a few weeks there. He didn't score last week because no one scored a touchdown for Minnesota. But the previous 2 weeks he scored. The second week of it, you're still getting 10-1. He got 15-1 against the Rams, 10-1 against the Colts. Here today, you're still getting plus 750. I know Hawkinson's back, but he's still getting integrated back into the offense and still is on a pitch count here. I don't mind that. Again, I'm okay with shooting some darts here this morning on a bunch of these anytime touchdowns. But there you go, Minnesota, 6-point favorites on the road in Nashville. And I think that's a little high here today. All right, Sean, we'll take a 2. We'll take a 2. When we get back, Vinny Magliulo will join us, give the full rundown from behind the book. We still have one more 10 a.m. game to get to, and then the late slate where we got some dynamite late games here today in the late afternoon, and, of course, Sunday Night Football. When we get back, Sports by the Book on a Sunday.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book on a Sunday. Jeff Parles, Alex White, Vincenzo, Vinny Magliulo is here.
Jeff, Alex, good to be with you both. Busy morning.
They're just refiring after last night?
Yeah, folks haven't had a good day yesterday, you know, so. But it's been busy all weekend. We had the fight the other night that really generated a lot of interest, and betting interest, and viewership. And then, of course, yesterday, busy day, and as you can see behind me, I tried to get in here 15 minutes ago, but it's pretty busy. But let me give you the rundown where we're at.
Please.
I was just with Chris in the back. And so we'll start, obviously, at the top. And again, we've got only 3 afternoon games today with the buys. But the Bears hosting the Packers, and Packers coming off of their bye. Did open as 6.5-point favorites. A little money showing for the Bears here, but there's still plenty of Packer action. So this game is right now sitting at 5.5 and a total 40.5, which is down 1 point off of the opening total. Browns and Saints, pretty good need for the Browns here. For the Saints, the home team. And the Browns are now a 1.5-point favorite after opening last Sunday night here at South Point as 2-point underdogs. Total on the game, 44. Not a lot of movement there. Rams, Patriots, pretty good support for the Patriots. Rams on a short week, and the Patriots have played better since being challenged by Coach Mayo a few weeks back. So some pretty respected money, and the public on the Patriots today. Game opened 5.5 last Sunday night. Now sits with the Rams as 4-point favorites. Total in the game 43. Not a lot of movement there. Ravens Steelers, support for the Ravens. And again, we did have them as 3-point favorites on the opener. Stood at 3. Really not didn't toggle back and forth at all. But now the Ravens are 3.5-point favorites against the Steelers. Total up 1.5 to 48.5. Raiders and Dolphins. This game has gone from Dolphins opening as 7-point favorites. Another short week team here after their win on Monday night against the Rams. Got as high as 8, now sitting at 7.5. So a little bit of a need for the Raiders, though, overall. Dolphins in a lot of teasers and money line parlays. I don't think that's a real surprise. 43.5 for the total, which is down a couple of points off the opener. Jags and Lions, biggest number on the board here. Lions open as 12.5-point favorites, got as high as 2 touchdowns. 13.5 right now, 47.5 for the Lions. Vikings and Titans, not a lot of movement here. A little bit of a need for the Vikes here. Some pretty good opinions on the Titans. They sit as the Vikings are 6-point favorites after opening as 6.5-point favorites. 40 for the total, not a lot of movement there. Not a lot of action here. Seahawks and 49ers. By the way, no Kittle. Looks like a lot of tight ends are out today if you look around the league,
it's the opposite of a few weeks ago where every tight end was basically in the end zone.
So no Kittle today, although I think he's going to try to test his hamstring before the game. So maybe a game-time decision, but probably leaning towards no. The Niners open 6.5. They sit as 6-point favorites. Total 49. Was as high as 50, but now came back down. So kind of gone back and forth between 48 and 50 for the better part of the week. Falcons and Broncos. Broncos opened as 1.5-point favorites, coming off a very tough loss last week against the Chiefs. Got as high as 2.5, now sitting as 2-point favorites against the Falcons. Total on the game up 1.5 to 45. We're going in rotation order here, right? Mm-hmm. So the Chiefs and Bills. We know about the injuries in this game for both teams. Kincaid out for the Bills. No Butker. There's a few injuries, really. A few more injuries for the Bills. So always check your injuries, folks, and pay close attention to those. And the actives and inactives are out already. Bills, 2.5-point favorites, holding steady as 2.5-point favorites. And the total on this one, 46. Great game. Everybody will be involved in this game. For both teams. Bengals and Chargers, which got flexed to this tonight in prime time, right? And we'll get to the Colts-Jets, which is another early game right after this. Higgins looks like he is a go for the Bengals, and the Chargers opened as 2-point favorites, 1 now within the last 24 hours. The total up on this one, no real surprise, up 3 points to 48. Colts-Jets. And a move here, I think this is a bet against Anthony Richardson more than anything else. I don't think it's the Jets have gotten support. They're up to 4 after opening as 3-point favorites. Total on the game from 44 down to 43. And then tomorrow night, which we'll talk a lot about, I'm sure, tomorrow, the Texans. This doesn't, just think about this. The Texans are a 7-point favorite in Dallas. Yep. Now, they did take the 7.5, which is a play on the number. But the Cowboys at home as a 7-point underdog tomorrow night. Total on the game, 41.5, which is down 1 point.
Well, I think it's right, too. That's the ridiculous part of it with how bad Dallas looked a week ago.
Yeah, you
have to adjust Dallas down
tremendously.
In a big way.
Yeah.
And for Houston, I mean, look, you're up 2 scores against Detroit. You shut them out in the first. I mean,
with 5 turnovers.
5 turnovers. You're supposed to win that game, and Houston found a way not to last week. Well, we'll get to the Jets-Colt game in a few moments, but boy, it's that's 2 franchises going in the wrong direction at the current moment, to say the very least, with that game flexed. Now, thank goodness we as a whole don't. That's hidden now in the 10 a.m. slate, as opposed to everyone watching it at once.
But it's interesting, the Bengals, and you look and say, well, why would they flex the Bengals in with a losing record? Because they're still alive for the playoffs, and that they're healthier now. It's a good game. The Chargers are definitely a playoff contender. So you've got a real solid defensive team in the Chargers going against an offensive team in the Bengals, which I think will make for a good matchup tonight and a lot of betting interest.
Should be a fun game.
Yeah.
Chargers, we mentioned this earlier, and we'll mention it again later. Chargers have only played one game in the 40s this year.
Yeah,
that was last week. Every other game was in the 40s. And Jim Harbaugh is pretty good at this head coaching thing.
I think so. When the teams responded to him, it's old school football, right? Try to run the ball, play good defense. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. So,
real quick Harbaugh stat before we let you go back to work. Chargers are allowing 13.1 points per game. The fewest by a team in their first year under a new head coach in the past 20 years. The second best one
was him.
2011 San Francisco 49ers, coached by Jim Harbaugh.
There you go.
Talk about changing a culture quickly, too. Chargers have been poorly coached basically for their entire existence, and here they are now. We're arguably the best coach in the NFL again.
Clearly, a team buying into a coaching philosophy is bearing fruit in some places, like with the Chargers. Certainly with the Lions, you see that. And then there's teams that appear to be completely out of sync, between head coach and players, especially quarterback.
Are you believing it finally, Jeff? You've said for a few weeks. I still have to get it out of my head. I can't.
With the Chargers, yeah. I mean, look, it's years of training that you have to get over with that.
You're conditioned.
No, I mean, it's years of training with the Chargers.
Yeah.
But look, the proof is in the pudding with Jim Harbaugh. We know how great of a coach he is. It's just a matter of, all right, when is the front office going to say, all right, enough of this guy, because he rubs people the wrong way. But he wins football games. If goal number one is winning football games, there are not many guys on the planet I'd rather have coaching my team than Jim Harbaugh.
He doesn't rub the players the wrong way. I could tell you.
Not early for sure. Vincenzo, thank you.
All right, Jeff,
as always.
Alex, crew, listeners, viewers, all the above. Have a great day.
Thank you, Vinny.
We're going to take a 1, Sean. We'll take a 1 when we get back. Jets and Colts, afternoon games, Sunday Night Football, right here on Sports by the Book.
South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book here on a Sunday. Jeff Parles, Alex White. All right, let's go to the Jets and the Colts. This was the initial Sunday night game. Now it's flexed out, thankfully for everyone involved. Alex, I'm not touching this game. I'm not touching this game from a traditional sense. I bet Jonathan Taylor over his rushing yards.
I did too.
That's the one thing I did in this game, over 84.5, which is a huge number. But the Jet run defense has been an abomination the whole year, and it's been especially awful since they fired Robert Saleh. It was awful last week in whatever that was in Arizona. Jets have their 4th kicker in 4 weeks also. Anders Carlson will kick today after the Jets didn't protect Spencer Schrader. He's not a kicker in Kansas City with Butker's injury. Colts are starting Anthony Richardson again after 2 terrible weeks of Joe Flacco play. I'm not touching this. If you made me play the side I would take, because I'm not so sure the Jets should be north of a field goal against basically anyone that's not the Giants or Carolina at this point. But I don't know. It's Richardson against a defense that at some point you would expect to show up and show some pride, but the Jets have shown no pride so far this year.
I'm with you. I'm there with Jonathan Taylor over his rushing yards. I also took him anytime touchdown. I think with Anthony Richardson being a more mobile quarterback, that'll open him up even more against this Jets run defense. But I didn't play the side either. And if you made me, I would probably take the 4. I think Anthony Richardson learned from his getting benched and getting to watch behind him. We saw what happened with Bryce Young, get a little bit of a boost in that first game back. So that's the only way I would look at this. But I can't blame the bettors. I mean, it's hard not to think with all that talent, especially on the offensive side as well, that the Jets are going to eventually figure it out. So nothing for me there. Just a nice little prop bet.
Yeah, I just, in the end, can't do it either way. And it'll be interesting to see how Richardson looks because the break helped Bryce Young. Helped him in a big way. He's played arguably two of his best games in the NFL since the benching and then the return. Remember, the first game was the shaky one for Young against Denver. Didn't play great. Wonder if this is shaky first game for Richardson, and then after that, looks like a different guy the rest of the way. So no play traditional-wise. Alex and I all over Jonathan Taylor this morning. And shouldn't shock anyone with that jet rush defense in the bottom 10 in the NFL. All right, let's go to the afternoon. Seattle at San Francisco. First time these teams met on a Thursday night. Niners were kind of in desperation mode. They were 2-3. Seahawks were in good shape at that point, and the Niners went there and beat them 36-24 in a game that, quite frankly, wasn't even that competitive. Now it's 6. We're awaiting status of Kittle, as Vinny said. Christian McCaffrey, game 2 back, didn't look overly comfortable a week ago. Interesting to see how he looks. Seahawks healthier. DK Metcalf expected to suit up after missing a few games before the bye. This Seattle team has really, to me, just gotten completely exposed. They beat up on bad teams. Their best win is the Falcons, which is a reasonably good win on the road. But other than that, when you look at the higher end competition they've played so far this year, Lions, that was the game where Seattle had almost 40 first downs and still lost by 2 scores because Goff didn't throw an incomplete pass in that game. The Niners, 36 on them, really didn't slow them down. Bills, blowout, 31-10. And then that weirdo game against the Rams 2 weeks ago, which the Rams won in overtime, 26-20. Seattle just has not elevated their game well against higher-end competition. I don't expect that to be the case today either. I would only lay it with the Niners, but be cautious because they have had plenty of issues covering numbers this year.
And that's why I think it's a great teaser, like just the Niners to win this game. I was all over the Seahawks. I took their win total over. It was 7.5. So just to get 8 wins. And now I'm nervous. And I think that eventually Mike Macdonald will be a good head coach and he'll have this team ready. But I'm shocked with what we've seen from them. He's a defensive guy. He had the Ravens as a historically good defense last year. And their defense has really struggled. And they've also just gone so pass heavy, have not established a good run game, even though they have Kenneth Walker and they have good running backs there. So yeah, I'm kind of just not in on the Seahawks right now. We'll see what they do after this bye. But the 49ers, they know as well, they have to go on a run here now. I mean, they're 5-4, which is pretty shocking for them as well. And they're trying to win that division. So I like the Niners just to get the win at least. I would, if you made me bet the spread too, I would choose to lay the 6 with the Niners.
Yeah, again, as always, with the way teasers are priced at a lot of places now, moneyline parlay or teaser, whichever one pays you better when it's all said and done with these favorites getting teased down. Obviously, when you're taking the dog up, you can't do it. But when you have a multi-favorite teaser, always keep that in mind here today. On the prop market's messy in this game. Ricky Pearsall's been a lot more involved. Jennings was involved a ton last week as well. So maybe you look at one of those two guys now that Ayuk's season is done. Jennings is 100% healthy. That is a later kick, so you have some time to figure that out here today. All right. Now to another game that confuses me. Denver hosting Atlanta. I have no idea what to make of Atlanta at this point. I have no clue. Because you look at the talent, you look at the record, and it's like, all right, they're going to win the NFC South going away in all likelihood because they have the tiebreaker over Tampa, where they essentially have a 3-game lead on the Bucs at this point. Their schedule, honestly, is not as favorable as I thought it was going to be going into the year down the stretch. They're a dog here. I don't know what that line will be in 2 weeks against the Chargers in Atlanta. Probably, let's see what the Chargers do over the next few weeks. They're going to be a dog in Minnesota. They're going to be a dog in Washington. So they're not as big of a cakewalk as we thought this was going to be down the stretch. Now, they play the Raiders, the Giants, and Carolina in the other 3 games. So those are 3 wins probably right there. But Alex, I don't know what to make of this team because what I said with the Chargers kind of has to go for the Falcons too. It's years and years and years of training yourself of, this team's just going to find a way to lose. They win a few games they weren't supposed to win. Those 2 Buck games where they were outplayed in both of them. And it's like, maybe they've turned the corner. And then that happens last week where they falcon, for lack of a better phrase. Koo misses 3 kicks. They lose a game to a horrible team that they have no business losing to. And here you are as a 2-point underdog against the Broncos, who have been one of the more surprising teams in a positive light here in 2024.
No, they really have. Their defense has been good. They've put Bo Nix in a good position to be successful enough to run this offense. But I made this game pick. I jumped in. I took the Falcons at +2.5. I feel like my numbers are pretty right with both of these teams. So I was kind of surprised to see the Broncos come in as a 2.5-point favorite here. Even though they are at home, I still think that the Falcons are the more talented and better team here. Now, coaching-wise, Sean Payton's been really good, and what he's done in this year with the Broncos is pretty impressive, but I'll take my shot with the Falcons here today, coming off a loss against New Orleans that they really should have won. So, Falcons for me today, Jeff. Cross your fingers, and don't jump on as well. Whenever we're both betting the Falcons, it's always bad news.
I have no idea whatsoever on what to do with this game. And for Denver, how do you respond to that last week?
That's a whole nother point. You're right.
How do you respond where the Broncos should have won that game?
Yes.
They were the better team in Kansas City last week. And you have a chippy field goal that gets blocked at the end and you'll lose. And it's like, oh man, this is like if you make that kick, you're 6-4. You're in great shape in the AFC playoff chase, where you really put at this point, Cincinnati is the one team you're really looking at of this mess at 4-6. And by the way, it's Indy, Cincy, and Miami with 6 losses. The Jets, the Patriots, the Browns, the Titans, and the Raiders at 7, who are all technically still in this thing, despite none of those teams I just mentioned being any good. But you really put the pressure on Cincinnati to basically be perfect with an easy-ish schedule for the Broncos the rest of the year. Instead, you lose that game. I just wonder if one loss turns into 2. Now, you have the right coach in order to avoid a letdown, because Sean Payton's been around the block, obviously, a long way. But you're dealing with a young quarterback who's coming off a great game. I just wonder and Bo Nix has obviously shown a ton of mental toughness through his college career at Auburn and at Oregon. But I just wonder how you handled that loss last week as a whole. Younger offense, did your part last week, just wasn't enough in a game against the only undefeated left. No play for me. Alex is on Atlanta in this one. All right. Now to the only undefeated left. Kansas City is a favorite is an underdog in this game. Second time this year, they're not a favorite. They were a dog in San Francisco, won that game by double digits. Actually, the only game that's been a double-digit margin so far this year for Kansas City was the game they were an underdog in against San Francisco. They go to Buffalo. We're still waiting on Amari Cooper for the Bills, even though they didn't elevate a wide receiver from the practice squad. That's probably a good sign for Cooper playing for the first time in 3 weeks. On the Kansas City side, Harrison Butker's on IR, meniscus injury. Spencer Schrader signed off the Jets practice squad, will kick. Schrader only was his first NFL game a week ago against the Jets. Strong leg in college at South Florida and Notre Dame. Not much accuracy, but strong-legged. 2.5 in this one. Bills favored 46, Alex. I'll just tell you this. I bet Kansas City in a teaser with a game we'll talk about next. This is a premium teaser position on Kansas City. This is a one-score game to me either way. I think Buffalo wins because they're 3-1 in the regular season against Patrick Mahomes and 0-3 in the postseason. So I would lean to Buffalo, but is a Kansas City teaser play for sure up to 8.5 and a 6-pointer.
Yes, I think that is a great teaser leg, especially because we know Patrick Mahomes as a dog in general is 12-1-1 against the spread. And then
is that good, Alex?
So if the Bills beat you by double digits, and so be it. I mean, that would be a terrible loss there. But you're probably going to be surprised. I'm typically on the Bills in these matchups, I think for regular season and the playoffs, but I like the Chiefs in this spot.
Okay.
I worry that the Bills have kind of just been fortunate with the teams that they have been beating, not really high end. And I already talked about the Ravens earlier. and their win over Buffalo. And that kind of led me to this play here with the Chiefs. I also think that last week it's kind of a look ahead, which I know we don't talk about look aheads and letdowns in the NFL, but they took the Broncos really lightly. They knew they had they knew they had the Bills up next. They'll be ready for this game. This game is huge when it comes to the AFC, the 1 seed, getting to host, having that 1 seed, and ultimately winning the conference. So 2.5 here with the Chiefs is the play for me. I also, of course, love the teaser leg as well.
Yeah, teaser leg, I think, is the best thing in this. But again, you can't fault anyone for taking Patrick Mahomes as an underdog. Like you said, only one loss as a dog in his career. We'll see how this plays out. It's a fascinating game. Really, really important game as well in the AFC playoff picture. Because if Kansas City wins today, the race for the 1 seed is done. It's over. Kansas City, yes, yeah. I think it's over. Yeah. Pittsburgh could technically catch them, but if you get the Baltimore-Kansas City parlay home today, if you happen to bet that on the money lines, it's over for the race in the 1 seed in the AFC at that point, because Kansas City will then have a 3-game lead on Baltimore and 3-game lead on Baltimore and Buffalo with the tiebreaker, and a 3-game lead on Pittsburgh with only a Week 17 game left against them on Christmas. So it is, it is going to be Kansas City having home field yet again in the postseason after last year's detour on the road for those 2 rounds and before going to, of course, win it all. All right, to Sunday Night Football, Alex. This is the other leg of my teaser. Bengals, Chargers. So this is getting a little more difficult now. So it's now down to 1. Now you lose the benefit of going through 7. So not as good as it was earlier in the week at 1.5. Chargers, of course, as we said, defense has been great. Only 1 game played in the 40s. This total is 48. Bengals kind of need this game. If they lose, they're 4-7 and have 2 games left with Pittsburgh. So it's going to be awfully difficult for Cincinnati to really make a big-time run at a potential postseason slot. Chargers, they're in great shape if they win this game. They're going to be coasting into the postseason with a win here today. I think all the numbers are good here. Chargers small favorite at home with basically no home field advantage and a total higher because of the Bengals' terrible defense and good offense. All checks out for me, Alex.
If you've been watching Sports by the Book, especially the weekdays, you know that I'm pretty high on the Chargers. They've been in my top 10 now for 2 weeks, and maybe it's a Harbaugh thing. I love the Ravens, and now the Chargers, now that they have Jim there. But, their defense, you brought it up, they're number 1 in points allowed, and then I love what we're seeing from their offense because they started out conservative, running the football, and now we've seen them actually put some points on the board and letting Justin Herbert really open up the field. So I went Chargers team total over, kind of like I did with this with the Steelers game, because I don't really know which way it's going to fall. I think the Chargers have a chance to hang around in this one and take advantage of a really bad defense here with the Bengals. So I got over 23.5. They've done that in 3 straight games, and I expect the Bengals to put a lot of pressure on them. They are going to put up points here, so the Chargers are going to have to respond. Even though I just said the Chargers have a really good defense, but I still think that getting T. Higgins back is huge for the Bengals. And even though I made the Chargers a bigger favorite at home, if you made me play it, I would probably just play the Bengals at that even money price to win the game outright. They are the more desperate team. They really do need this win at just 4-6. So I think they'll be ready for this one.
Yeah, hey, look, desperation critical here for Cincinnati. Got to get it done. And it's a year where Burrow and Chase have been the best they've ever been. It'd be pretty horrible of them to waste what those 2 dudes have done so far this year. All right, before we go, Monday Night Football. Alex, we'll just hit this quick. Of course, you and your dad, Kenny White, will break it down tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Ryan McCormick and I will break it down tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific time. 7 with Houston. At Dallas, Cooper Rush is going to start again for the Cowboys, who are just lost at this point without Dak Prescott. They were lost with him. They're really lost without him. This is an important game for Houston, where the cracks have really started to show with the Texans.
Yes.
Where their offensive line problems have really shown up. C.J. Stroud last week made one really awful decision on a drive with the interception in the end zone where If Houston gets 3 in that drive, it's really hard for Detroit to come back. I haven't loved DeMeco Ryan's decisions in game either. This feels like a super important game, especially, again, blowing 23-7 halftime lead, losing to Detroit. You just got to handle your business and beat up on a team that is just beat up and looking forward to 2025 at this point.
I think that 7.5 was the right play, taking it here with the Cowboys Monday night. Just these two. This is the state rivalry, right? So the Cowboys are going to show up for this game. They're going to give their best effort. Now, what they can do is questionable. They have not been able to run the football. They have not been able to stop the run. They are the worst in opponent rushing yards per game. So it is a little bit nerve-wracking. I don't love it here at 7, but at that 7.5, it was. I took a little bit on the Cowboys there. So we'll see what we've got tomorrow and I guess other bettors have as well, but.
Oh boy! Again, 7 on the road. This might be a nice night if you want to spend time with the family. Maybe take a Monday night off. Maybe this might be the week.
There's no way nobody is taking a night off when you've got the Texans and the Cowboys are the dog. Oh, they're tuning in just to see.
Well,
this will be the one that watch the Cowboys win. Take that 3-1.
That would be a horrible loss for Houston if that happens.
Horrible.
If that is the case. All right.
But I will just say, it is funny. Everybody was on the Cooper Rush is going to make this better, but I mean, they struggled with Dak Prescott, so he can only do so much there. Yeah,
well, Rush had 2 yards in attempt last week. It was awful in that game against the Eagles. All right, that's it. That's what we got for you. We're back at 9 a.m. and 3 tomorrow. Yep. Alex and Kenny at 9. Myself and Ryan McCormick at 3. We'll get you ready for Monday Night Football. Alex and Kenny will get you ready for the whole day ahead.
Yes.
Across the board. So we're looking forward to that right here on the channel. Sean, Drew Dog, thank you. Alex, good luck. Good luck to everyone out there as well. We'll see you again tomorrow on Sports by the Book.